What do you get when you pour hot water down a rabbit hole? A hot cross bunny. I stayed in my room all evening. I tried to go over my routine, but the words were a blur. The phone rang about 9 o'clock. "Bobby, it's for you," Mom said. I came out of my room, refusing to look her in the eye. I picked up the phone. "1 minute," said a girl's voice I didn't recognize. Then Jimmy came on the phone. "Don't say anything," he said. "I got a friend to make this call. Come on down to apartment 6A in the building. I need you. There's a poker game and I'm losing. I told them you were my lucky charm. They think you're doing me a favor by letting me bring you." Sorry," I said. "I can't. Tomorrow's the laugh-off." "I need you. Please? Don't be selfish," pleaded Jimmy. It was killing me anyway, being alone in my room. I might as well ruin my chances for the laugh-off altogether. "I'll be there in just a minute," I said into the phone. I hung up. I scratched my head. I've got to go down to Janine's," I said quickly to Mom, Dad, and Grandma. "We've got some last-minute things to do for the laugh-off." Dad looked at his watch. "Don't be long," he said. "Come here," said Grandma. "Grandma, I've got to go," I muttered. "Janine's waiting." "So, on the way, come here," insisted Grandma. She stood up, opened her arms, and drew me in. I could feel how soft she felt, as if she didn't have any bones. Her hand reached up and smushed my hair. I was worried that I was going to cry again. What a way to spend the night before the great laugh-off. I pulled away. I looked at her. "I've really got to go," I said. I could see my father and mother watching us. Grandma patted my head once more. I turned to leave. The hallway was empty. I punched the button for the elevator. What a mess. Jimmy was waiting for me on the 6th floor. "Thanks," he said. He looked at me. "Are you okay? You look a little down in the mouth. What's the matter? Are you nervous about our signals? Let's go over them. What's the signal if someone has a straight, 5 cards in a row, but of different suits?" I pretended to wipe my nose with my forefingers straight out. Jimmy nodded. "That's good. What's the signal for a flush? 5 cards, all the same suit, like 5 hearts or 5 spades." I say I've got to go to the toilet. "Good. You've got a good memory, Bobby. Everything will be fine." "Jimmy, everything is so far from fine it isn't funny. I really do have the laugh-off tomorrow. I've got to go over my routine. Some of the jokes I was going to do, well, they're about Dad and you and me. I want to work on them. A lot of my jokes are about how mean Dad is." My voice trailed off. "Great. I can't wait to hear them. Aren't you the one who was always telling me that comics have to make jokes about what they know? Here's a joke you can use tomorrow. Our dad is so mean, they named a cake after him. Crumb." I shook my head. "I don't know, Jimmy. I can't explain it." "Kiddo, don't worry about it. You need something to take your mind off the laugh-off. Forget about the laugh-off and pull yourself together." Forget about the laugh-off? The biggest thing in my life, and Jimmy wanted me to forget about it? "Stop worrying so much," said Jimmy. "I need you on your toes." Jimmy led me into apartment 6A. There were 4 people sitting around a table with an empty seat. Jimmy sat down in the empty chair. He had almost no chips in front of him. Jimmy started to deal. I recognized Mr. Young, the deli owner. He had a huge stack of poker chips in front of him. His arms were folded against his stomach, and his black hair was plastered against his skull. "I don't like you bringing a kid," said a plump blonde woman I had never seen before. She had a small stack of poker chips in front of her. Next to her was a white-haired man. His full head of hair seemed to perch on his head like a funny cap. I couldn't tell if it was real or not. He had a substantial pile of blue chips in front of him. "Hey, kid, make yourself useful. Bring me over a seltzer, please," he said to me. "Your brother tells us that you like jokes." "Do you know what you get when you pour hot water down a rabbit hole?" he asked. I handed him his drink. "No," I said. "You get a hot cross bunny," he shouted as if I were hard of hearing. I liked him. He had a big smile. "Thank you," he said as he took the drink. I looked at the cards in his hand. He didn't even try to hide his cards from me. Maybe he thought he was teaching me by showing me his cards. I noticed he had 5 hearts in his hand. It was a flush. If Jimmy bet against him, unless he had a great hand, he would lose a lot of money. It was Jimmy's bet. I saw him start to reach for his remaining chips. Excuse me, I've got to go to John," I said. I went to the bathroom. I flushed the toilet so Jimmy would hear and remember that was our signal for a flush. I didn't want to be with these people when they found out my brother was trying to cheat them. For all the times I've gotten in trouble at school, I've never cheated. I guess Janine really is a good influence on me in that way. I see how hard Janine works for good grades. If I cheated, it would be like I was taking something away from her. But if I wouldn't cheat at school, why was I cheating for Jimmy? I'd always thought it was cool to help him cheat when Dad played for our family poker games, but this wasn't our family poker game. I went back into the room. Sorry, old guy, but a full house beats a flush any day, said Jimmy as he raked in the chips. Of course he was raking it in. I'd helped him cheat. I was sure you were bluffing the way you always do. I never thought you could beat a flush. Maybe I'm getting too old for this, like those darned horses I bet on. You're not too old, joked Jimmy. I just got lucky. Whose deal? Jimmy looked a little like the wolf in the pictures of Little Red Riding Hood. He was trying to look innocent, but I had a feeling that anybody with an ounce of smarts would know that he was cheating. Maybe I had been infected by Dr. Deal's unfunny joke about a conscience being a hard thing to kill. Mine was certainly alive and kicking right now. Jimmy, I stammered. I can't stay. Tomorrow's a big day for me. What's tomorrow? Asked the old man. My school's having a laugh-off, a joke contest between the teachers and the kids. It was my idea. A joke contest in school? It sounds like a lot more fun than when I was a kid. Good night, everybody, I said, and I went out into the hall. I ran to the elevator and pushed the button. Jimmy caught up with me. What are you doing? He said. He grabbed my arm. I've got to go home. I've got to get to bed. The elevator came. I jumped in, and Jimmy came with me. Bobby, you're being selfish, said Jimmy. You're leaving me just as I'm starting to win. I felt like crying. I was so tired. I'm not selfish, and you are not winning. You are cheating. The elevator opened on our floor. Jimmy followed me. He dogged me all the way to our door. You know who's the big laugh-off? He shouted at me. You are. A kid who doesn't know that blood is thicker than anything else. If that teacher you love told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? You sound just like Dad, I taunted him. And my teacher isn't you. He wouldn't ask me to jump off a bridge. Mr. Matus wouldn't ask me to do anything that would hurt me. I was shouting now. I was really angry. Is that a joke? Jimmy screamed at me. No, I yelled, turning to face him. It is not a joke. I saw Jimmy's face change as if he had seen a ghost. His mouth dropped open. His lips got white. What's wrong? I asked him. I turned around. Dad was standing there. He and Jimmy stared at each other. Dad put his arms around me. It was the strangest gesture. I don't remember him holding me like that in years. Dad looked straight at Jimmy. What are you doing with Bobby? He's got to rest tonight. Tomorrow's his big day. Oh, the almighty great laugh-off, said Jimmy sarcastically. It's important to him, said Dad. How you doing, Jimmy? A lot you care, sneered Jimmy. What are you doing in the hall? I was looking for Bobby. I realized that he couldn't have been with Janine. When Bobby answered the phone a little while ago, he told whoever called that he had the laugh-off tomorrow. Then he told us he was going to see Janine, who knows as much about the great laugh-off as Bobby does. I didn't want Mom and Grandma to get nervous, but I thought I'd try to find where Bobby had really gone. Jimmy glared at him. Congratulations, Dad. You're a great detective, he said in a mocking voice. He sounded angry and hurt. Then he looked down at me. You know what, Bobby? He said. You'll lose tomorrow at that laugh-off. You know why? Because you are like everyone in this family, a born loser, a big, fat loser. Don't speak to your brother like that, said Dad. Oh, so now Bobby's the fair-haired one, and I'm the monster? You're not a monster, Jimmy, said Dad. For a second, I thought Dad was going to cry. I had never seen Dad cry. I saw Jimmy take a deep breath, as if he'd forgotten to breathe until just now. He couldn't look at me. I'm sorry I called you a loser, Bobby, he muttered. Good luck tomorrow. He turned to go. You promised you'd come to the laugh-off, I shouted after him. I looked at Dad. I want Jimmy there. Jimmy, wait, shouted Dad. Jimmy turned to face him. He still looked angry. Go to bed, Bobby. Leave Jimmy and me alone a minute. Dad, I'm sorry, I said. I started to try to explain why I'd lied about sneaking out of the apartment. Dad shook his head. It's not you who has to be sorry, he said. He was looking straight at Jimmy. Do you mean me? Jimmy asked angrily. Dad shook his head. No, he said softly.